Hi, thanks for joining me again. This is Struggling to Whistle. So now you're a parent. In my last video I discussed my induction and the birth of my son and a little bit of the aftermath whilst you're still in the hospital. In this video I am going to discuss the going home part where the bubble of the hospital is popped and you suddenly find yourself a brand new parent with this huge responsibility on your shoulders and being away from all the professionals that kind of mollycoddle you while you're in the hospital. You know, they make sure that you've fed your baby, that your baby is clean and changed and sleeping well, and that there's no problems with the actual feeding. I mean, myself, I had to do formula. My psychiatrist at the time told me I couldn't breastfeed, which later turned out to be untrue, which left me feeling quite guilty that I hadn't breastfed, although my milk didn't come in for a week after birth, so it probably wouldn't have worked out anyway. But if you do decide to breastfeed, then whilst you're in the hospital, ask as many questions as you possibly can, and any that you need to know, because it is this daunting process. And from what I've discovered from talking to mums and obviously witnessing their struggle in the hospital, it can be quite difficult to get the baby to latch. But don't worry if they send you home really quickly and then you're having problems, because you will see your midwife for the first week or so after birth at home, because obviously you will have bleeding and your hormones are all over the place, so you'll be really emotional and you won't be sleeping because you've got this newborn that just doesn't sleep. So you're going to be all over the place. So a midwife will come and check on you, and you will also have your health visitor visit to make sure that baby's okay and you've got no concerns. For myself, we formula fed and Cole really struggled. We later found out that he was tongue-tied and lip-tied, so feeding was really difficult, but it used to take him over an hour to have 1 ounce of milk. When we were discharged after 3 days and 2 nights in hospital, we were scheduled to have his tongue tie sorted pretty much straight away. So the following week after I'd had him, he went to Birmingham to have his lip tie sorted because his tongue looked like a heart because it was so tied, and they did it then and there. So feeding was a real issue, as was sleeping. Cole would not sleep on his back at all. He'd sleep for like 20 minutes maximum, and then we'd have to get him up and rock him and sing him back to sleep and then put him down again. 20 minutes later he was up. So it was a real struggle, and there's going to be so many people out there that disagree with what I'm about to say. I understand that it is a risk and it does go against convention, but at 4 weeks after we were so sleep deprived and Coley wasn't happy, we let him sleep on his front and he slept beautifully. Now it is important to note here that we bought a breathing and movement monitor before we did it, and it was at that point that Cole moved into his own room, into his cot, because you couldn't put the monitor in the Moses basket that we had, because it's got to be on a board and it just wouldn't fit in the Moses basket. So it went into his cot, and so did he. So we had the breathing monitor, and we also had a video monitor, and we slept in his room with him for the first 6 months of his life. So all of those of you out there that are now saying that I'm a terrible mum because I let him sleep on his front, he was monitored so closely that there was not a chance that there would be that he would stop breathing and we wouldn't notice. The alarm did go off a few times to begin with, and then around the 7-month mark it started going off again, but that was because Cole was holding his breath. So we had no incidents at all. But if you are going to, I would strongly recommend a breathing monitor anyway, because it's just for peace of mind. And some babies do stop breathing through the night, and you know, sometimes that monitor will stir them enough to get them breathing, or you go in and you touch them and that will start them breathing again. I highly recommend them. But Cole was closely monitored, like I say, and at 4 weeks we decided that enough was enough. He needed his rest, we needed our rest, and he still sleeps on his front now. I mean, obviously now he can roll backwards and forwards, and he does. He sleeps at weird angles and everything else, but it is always on his front. Cole had reflux and colic, and as I said, he really struggled with the whole feeding process. After his tongue tie was sorted, it did get a little better, but his reflux really didn't solve itself. And we tried ranitidine, we tried Gaviscon, we tried Infocol, we tried Colif, we tried everything possible. And then in the end, we ended up at hospital because he couldn't keep anything down and had a rash. They said the rash was viral and the vomiting was reflux. So they referred us back to our GP, who kept changing the formula that Cole was on. So he changed him to a comfort milk, he changed him to a stay down milk, then he added in different medications, and none of it worked. And in the end, I begged him for a allergen-free milk. I chose Neocate. I said I had a milk allergy when I was a baby, and Cole was showing signs that he had one too. And I wouldn't try any more milks or medications until I could try an allergen-free milk. And like I said, I suggested Neocate because it's the only milk out there that is completely milk protein free. It's completely hypoallergenic milk. You know, if it doesn't work, I'll be back tomorrow to try something else. And so the doctor agreed, and we tried Neocate, and from the first bottle, huge difference. There was no arcing of the back, there was no scrunching up the legs, there was no crying, and his skin cleared up because he was covered in eczema. That cleared up brilliantly. He used Gaviscon as well to begin with, and then we got down to just Gaviscon right before bed at night because obviously lying down it kept bringing it up. But the Gaviscon really helped, and he stuck with the Neocate all the way through. I mean, obviously, if you think that your child has a milk allergy, then by all means talk to your GP. And if your GP won't prescribe it for you, talk to your health visitor and get a referral to the dietitian. Now, they can do it urgent, and if they can't fit you in for an appointment urgently, then they should give you a phone call and advise you on what to do. If you really are struggling to get somebody to listen to you, then some supermarkets do a goat's milk formula that might work for your child, because some children it's just the cow's milk that they can't have, but they can have goat's milk. So that's worth considering at a push. But you have to remember that these specialist formulas sometimes have to be ordered into the chemist. So even if your doctor prescribes it or your dietitian, it might not be until the following day that you can get it, unless your appointment is first thing in the morning and you contact the chemist early enough. So that's worth mentioning too. Your midwife will come and see you for the first couple of weeks, or the week or 2 weeks after you've given birth, dependent on the area you're in, how many patients they've got to see, and how much help you need. But they will come and check out the bleeding that you're experiencing, and obviously if that is ridiculously heavy or you've got large clots, then you need to mention it to them. Your health visitor will also come out and check on baby and yourself. And it's at these checks that you should mention any depression that you're feeling. It's perfectly normal to struggle in, the middle of the night or the middle of the day when your child has been up for hours, won't sleep, you're sleep deprived, they're crying, and you don't feel completely ecstatic with your life at that particular moment. That's normal. That's just lack of sleep. But if you start to feel that on a regular or permanent basis, then that could be postnatal depression. Doesn't make you a bad mum or a bad parent, because dads can feel it too. It just makes you human. A lot of parents struggle with postnatal depression, and there is help available. It doesn't mean that social services are going to get involved. It doesn't make you weak or pathetic. It makes you human. And And by worrying about the impact that that's going to have on your child or what's going to happen, it proves that you are a good parent. Because if you weren't, then you really wouldn't be worrying. The health visitor and midwife will also discuss your milk coming in and any breastfeeding issues if that's what you've decided to do. I will say, in terms of breastfeeding or formula, don't let people guilt trip you. If you've decided that you don't want to breastfeed for whatever reason, or if you can't breastfeed, then you shouldn't let other people make you feel guilty and like you're less of a parent. It's what works for you as a mum. If you're not happy, then your baby's not going to be happy, and that's all you need to think about. If you are breastfeeding and you feel that your baby isn't getting enough, then please give them a bottle. Because there are mums out there that didn't. They exclusively breastfed their babies and it wasn't enough and they lost their baby. I know that sounds really harsh and somewhat fabricated. It's really not. If you don't believe me, Google it. And again, that's not something you should feel bad about. Your body can do amazing things, but sometimes it just can't produce enough milk for your baby. And there's no harm in topping that up with formula. Absolutely none. Likewise, if you start breastfeeding and it gets too difficult for whatever reason, it's painful or it's just not working out, then stop. There's no harm in stopping. You tried, you couldn't do it. It doesn't matter. And I did encounter mums that looked down on me because I was formula feeding. I went to Baby Sign and other stay in plays, and there was mums there that were breastfeeding, and they'd look down on me when I got out a bottle of milk. Now, they didn't know that it wasn't breast milk. They didn't know, but they looked down on me because it was a bottle of milk and not my breast. And you really shouldn't let people make you feel less of a parent because of a choice that you've made. Another choice that me and Dave made was that we would allow people to see Cole whenever they wanted. So we wanted him to be close to all the family, not just me and him. So if people said to us, can I come and see Cole? Absolutely, of course you can. And obviously now he's older, they can have him at their houses or they can take him out somewhere, because that's what we wanted for Cole. We wanted this wider family rather than just me and him. And Cole has a great relationship with various members of our families, and it works really well for us. But if you're not comfortable with people coming around and seeing your baby on a constant basis, because believe me, when you get home everybody will want to come, then be honest and tell them. Basically, it's your choice. And again, I'll say it, happy mum, happy baby. So if people are causing stress, or certain aspects of the parenting experience are causing you stress, then do what you can to ease that stress. Bottom line is that this is your child, it's your choice, and it's your life. So you need to make it work in whatever way that you can. Cole started out in a Moses basket, but he didn't like it at all. So then we tried him in a travel cot in our room, still not happy. And then we put him in his actual cot and he was fine. Like I say, we slept in there with him, but he was fine in his cot. Same as feeding, we chose formula because the breast wasn't happening, and we chose to have people around rather than not. You know, the bottom line is you can do this. No matter how low you feel, no matter how much you're bleeding or you're suffering with postnatal depression, you absolutely can do this. People struggle every day, but there's help available. Please seek that help, please, because it's absolutely vital that you do. Another thing to bear in mind is getting a routine established straight away. It's much easier in the long run in terms of you getting the rest you need, your baby gets what they need, and you manage to fit in other activities like eating, having a hot drink that's actually still hot, and fitting in any baby groups. Now, for myself, baby groups didn't help and they made me really anxious, so I really couldn't do that many. But for others, they're a lifeline. They give you somewhere to go on a daily basis. You see other mums, you get that connection, and it really helps pad out your day. We had a routine from day one, and that routine is still in place, and he's 20 months this month. Obviously the bedtime has changed slightly, and obviously the bottles have now disappeared except for morning and night, and it's now meals in the middle of the day rather than every few hours is a bottle. But the routine stands, and it really helps us a lot because we know that we get up at this time in the morning, he has his meals, and then it's bottle, bath, bed. And he's in bed normally by 8 o'clock. Occasionally it's later, but it's normally by 8 o'clock. When he was first born, he was in bed by 6. So he'd have his last bottle and his bath at around 5:30, and then he'd go to bed by 6. Now he has his bottle around 7 and then he has a bath and goes to bed. Now my son has had a bath every day since he was born. Now obviously when they're born you don't use wipes, you don't use soaps, you just use warm water and cotton wool. But other than that, all I can say is seek help if you need it. You're doing a fantastic job. No matter if you end up with postnatal depression or not, you're doing fantastic. It's perfectly normal. It happens to so many people. And if you have got a previous mental health condition and you start to decline, then please seek help from either your CPN, if you've got one, or your perinatal team psychiatrist, because they will see you for the first year of your baby's life. And if something is changing, like you need your medication changing or you just need to talk it through, then seek help. If you need anything, get in touch. Otherwise, thank you for watching. Please subscribe and please share. Thanks.